stone sky. They were not supposed to be there. The creatures, broad-shouldered, slate-skinned, and covered in rough, matted fur, moved through the mists like ancient spirits. They walked upright, their massive feet sinking into the mossy soil of their world, leaving behind prints too perfect to be accidents of nature. The humans watching them from the cliffs above whispered only one word into their comms: sentience. The planet had no official name yet. Catalogued as T973L, it was marked on stellar maps as low-priority biological zone. Most explorers skipped it. No resources, no settlements, just a primordial landscape veiled in permanent twilight. But Dr. Mara Tenzin saw something on a thermal skin 6 weeks ago, movement patterns too organized to be wildlife. She requested a drone survey, then a shuttle mission. Now here she stood, silent and breathless, watching what looked like a civilization from humanity's forgotten past. Except it wasn't Earth. And these weren't people. The native species, dubbed Varnak by the team, seemed to live in scattered tribal communities. Each tribe wore different mud paints, decorated their fur with bones or metallic shards. They didn't use fire, but they carved tools, weapons, spears, clubs, and they fought, violently, brutally. Every evening, when the twin moons began to rise, their howls filled the sky. The humans watched from their camouflage perch, just 10 meters above the valley floor, as a skirmish erupted between two neighboring clans. Dr. Mara whispered into her recorder. Approximately 45 Varnak, in total. Crude flanking maneuvers. Use of high ground. Tactical grouping. Behavioral level suggests early Neolithic. No visible hierarchy. Possibly matrilineal command. Most striking, emotional expression. Grief. Rage. Even mercy. She paused and stared at one of the warriors, a young male, dragging his wounded sibling away from a bloodied clearing. His yellow eyes glinted with something eerily familiar. Fear. It wasn't until the third week that something changed. On a fog-drenched morning, the team heard drums. Not rhythmic noise. Not animalistic pounding. Music. Coordinated. Pulsing. A warning. No. A ritual. Dr. Mara's heart raced. They're communicating across distances. Through terrain, too, said Anton, the linguistic AI technician. Vibrations. Echo patterns. We may be looking at a proto-language based on percussion. But it wasn't the music that made their skin crawl. It was the sudden silence that followed. And the two Varnaks standing less than 30 feet away, staring up through the brush. They've seen us, whispered Anton. No sudden movement, Mara breathed. But it was too late. The larger one, a female, easily 2 meters tall, leapt up the cliff face like an ape, dragging herself with terrifying speed. The smaller one followed. The team froze. No one reached for weapons. That was Rule 1. No contact. No escalation. No interference. Observe only. But the Varnak were already on them. Then something unexpected happened. The female reached out. Not to strike. Not to scream. But to mimic. She touched Anton's arm. Lightly. Then placed her palm against her own chest. Thumped it twice. Paused. Thumped again. Mara stepped forward and copied her. Palm. Chest. 2 thumps. The Varnak's eyes widened, and she smiled, a strange, sideways twitch of lips and teeth, but unmistakable in intent. The smaller one knelt and began drawing. In the dirt. Circles. Stars. Lines between them. A crude but undeniable map of constellations. They're not just aware of each other, Anton muttered. They're aware of the sky. Dr. Mara stared, heart pounding. The Varnak pointed upward. Then tapped the dirt constellation again. Pointed upward. Tapped the stars. Then pointed at them. She whispered, they know we came from the sky. They brought the data back to the observation dome that night. It was unanimous. Contact had been made. Unintentionally. Peacefully. Irreversibly. But that wasn't what shook them. It was what came next. The next morning, one of the tribal groups, previously marked as hostile due to their aggression in skirmishes, began to climb. Hundreds of Varnak. Not with weapons, but with offerings. Bones carved into intricate spirals. Feathers. Crystals. Bits of gleaming ore. Dr. Mara watched as they laid them gently along the perimeter of the human's observation cliff. A gift. Then a signal. One of the Varnak females stepped into the center of the clearing and collapsed, bleeding, from a spear wound, not self-inflicted. From another tribe. A message in blood. Not war. A plea. What if they're asking us to choose? Mara whispered. To help. Anton shook his head. That would be interference. But what if we already did? She asked. Outside, the Varnak tribes began to gather, more of them than ever before. Staring up. Waiting. For 3 nights, the Varnak returned. Not in anger. Not in silence. But in mourning. Each time, they carried another wounded figure to the edge of the cliff where the humans watched. Some still breathed. Some didn't. Each was laid at their feet like a question with no words. And each time, the tribe that brought the body would point, not at the humans, but at the sky. At them. As if to say, you came from above. You saw. You know. Do something. Rule 1 still stood. No interference. But Rule 1 hadn't accounted for the sound of a child crying in the dirt below, reaching toward the humans with a shaking hand and red-stained fingers. That sound echoed in Mara's dreams. And on the 4th morning, she broke protocol. She descended. Alone. No armor. No weapon. Just a single satchel with medical tools, a universal translator still learning syntax, and a chalkboard. At first, the Varnak stared. Then parted. The injured child lay cradled in the arms of the female warrior she recognized from the first encounter, the one with the constellation map. Blood soaked the fur at the child's side. Mara knelt, opened her bag, began treating the wound. She said nothing, but the Varnak watched every motion. And when the child finally stirred alive, the crowd exhaled. Not a cheer, not a roar, a sound like wind over stone, a communal breath. That was the first fracture in the wall. The next came when Anton joined her. Then Yashira, their biologist. Then Jules, the language specialist. In less than a week, half the team had moved into a neutral zone set just beyond the edge of the human outpost, near the Varnak encampment. They began to exchange. Not technology. Not weapons. Stories. The Varnak didn't speak in the way humans did. They used symbols. Objects. Sound patterns layered over tone and rhythm. Jules discovered that tone changed meaning. A 2-beat drum meant hunt, but when echoed at lower pitch, meant warn. Anton built a sonic lexicon. Yashira learned to identify the Varnak's biological empathy cues, subtle color shifts in their skin under specific emotional states. And Mara? She watched. She listened. She learned their names. The 2 dominant tribes had been at war for generations. One controlled the river, the other the forest. Each saw the other as a threat to survival. The recent skirmishes had been the bloodiest in decades. But now, a third presence had entered their world. The Skywalkers. They had seen the war, had not joined it, but had touched their wounded, had healed. And now, the question pulsed beneath every interaction. Would they choose a side, or something else? On the 12th night, it came to a head. The river tribe approached the human perimeter, armed. The forest tribe stood opposite, also armed. 2 leaders, 2 sides, and in between the humans, trying desperately not to be seen as gods or judges. Mara stepped between them. No translator, no weapon, just her. She took a stone from her pocket, drew a line in the dirt, then a circle around it, then 2 smaller circles, one on each side of the line. She placed a human handprint on the center circle, then extended her palm outward. The gesture was simple. We stand between. Not above. The Varnak leaders stared. Long. Silent. Then, impossibly, the forest tribe leader dropped his spear. The river leader did the same. And when they stepped forward together, into the center circle, the entire valley exhaled again. This time, not in grief. In relief. Over the next year, the humans remained. Not as commanders. Not as saviors. As witnesses. They were given a place in the valley. Allowed to walk among the Varnak. Not to teach, but to learn. New tribes began trading across once hostile borders. Drums turned from signals of war to patterns of celebration. Children played beneath the cliffs where blood had once soaked the roots. And one morning, a Varnak youth brought Mara a gift. A stone slab, etched carefully with markings that formed an unmistakable image. A starship, above a valley, beneath twin moons, and beneath it, 3 handprints Varnak. Varnak, human. Together. Epilogue. 10 years later, Earth granted the Varnak cultural protection status. The valley became a shared heritage site. No mining. No settlement. Only visitors, and only by invitation. Mara never left. She became part of their world. And every evening, when the drums began to play beneath the orange twin moons, she would sit beneath the stone sky and remember the first moment the past and future touched, when silence gave way to understanding, and understanding to peace. The end.